Dear teachers, I grew up in Downers Grove and attended Whittier Elementary School, O'Neill Junior High, and South High schools. And back then I was called Bill Ashdown. Maybe one or two of you remember me, but nowadays most people call me Shaughnessy. I know that bullying is a continual topic of discussion among teachers, but lately there's been a lot of media coverage given to kids who are bullied because of their sexual orientation or because of their perceived sexual orientation. Maybe you've heard about Asher Brown, who was constantly called faggot and queer. Just a few weeks ago, Asher committed suicide using his father's gun. He was 13 years old. Billy Lucas never self-identified as gay, but he was perceived to be by bullies who harassed him daily at his high school. Just a few weeks ago, he hung himself. He was 15 years old. Keep in mind that for every gay kid who commits suicide, there are thousands and thousands of gay victims of bullying who survive, but who are greatly traumatized by the experience. Other recent suicides were Justin Auberg, who had the remarkable courage to come out as gay when he was only 13. Seth Walsh and Tyler Clementi. Justin, Chloe Lacey, and Aisha Hassan. I could name more victims we know about from the news. It's been described as an epidemic, which gives the impression that it's something that suddenly got worse. But I don't think that that's the case at all. People have been reporting for years about how often gay kids are bullied. Have you heard the statistics on this? Gay teens are 4 times more likely to commit suicide than straight teens. This doesn't surprise me at all, because 25 years ago, I was almost one of those statistics. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I experienced, and then I'm going to tell you what I wish teachers had done to help me. Looking at me now, you can probably tell that I'm gay, but my appearance is relatively masculine. When I was a little boy, I was very, very feminine. I was even occasionally mistaken for a girl, and starting at around 5 years old, I thought I wanted to be a girl. I liked girl things like flowers and the color pink and rainbows and unicorns, and for some reason this wasn't a problem until I transferred in the middle of 3rd grade. I transferred schools, and I can remember at the first recess I went out to the playground with the other kids, and somebody had a ball and I was waiting for a game to start, and then one of the other kids turned to me and said, "What are you doing here with us? Go play with the boys." And I looked around and I was in a group of girls. I just naturally gravitated towards them, and I guess I must have done this at my first elementary school too, but in that class at Whittier, for some reason, the boys and girls played completely separately from each other, and the girls would not tolerate my presence in their games, and the boys wouldn't either, because the boys played sports, and I wasn't any good at sports. And like I said, I was a very feminine little boy. Everyone noticed that. So I immediately started getting teased. "You're a girl, you're a girl." I had to hear that constantly, and no one would play with me. For the rest of elementary school, I did not have one friend at school. There was one boy who played with me a few times after school, but when other boys saw him and teased him, he denied that he'd been playing with me. One day in 4th grade, this is the next year, I went to my teacher and I said, "Mrs. Everybody's calling me a girl." And she said, "Well, are you a girl, Bill?" which meant that it was my fault that I was getting teased because I was acting so feminine, and if I wanted the teasing to stop, then I should modify my behavior and act more masculine. I don't know why I didn't become a transsexual. When I grew up, actually after I left school and realized being gay wasn't a bad thing at all, I became comfortable with being male, just being a gay male and not a female trapped in a male's body. And I don't suffer from any gender dysphoria today. But I know from this experience that transgenderism is very real. It's a very real, essentially natural phenomenon that needs to be respected. So, when I went from elementary school to O'Neill Junior High, the kids' vocabularies were much larger, and I went from hearing, you're a girl, every day, to you're a fag, every day. And I must have been called a fag, I don't want to exaggerate here, maybe 20, 30 times a day. Easily. I can remember going from classroom to classroom in the 5 minutes between classes, and the metaphor that occurred to me at the time was that it was like being a salmon swimming upstream in a river of insults. I'd be walking through all the kids and I'd hear fag, and a few seconds later queer, and a few seconds later cocksucker, you name it, I heard it every day. And teachers must have heard it too, but as far as I know, no teacher ever said anything to anybody who called me a name, except for just once. I saw a math teacher stop a kid in the hall who just called me a faggot, and he said something to him which I couldn't hear, but with a big smile on his face, which demonstrated that he didn't really take it seriously. And I can remember that the teacher called the kid and he turned around kind of worried, and then he saw the smile and he relaxed. He knew the teacher wasn't taking it seriously. And I did not have one friend, not one friend in junior high.